Hi everybody and welcome to our first training tip of the month. My name's Jordan Winsell. I work in sports science and I've been convinced that this might be a good idea to send out some information to club members roughly each month with some small tips on how to maximise some of their training, maybe get a little bit fitter, but also hopefully just enjoy their riding a little bit more as well. First tip today links in very nicely with the upcoming event around nutrition, and we're going to talk a little bit about fueling on the bike. So lots of you will know that when you're out on the bike, you're out there for a long time, you're going to require some energy, and standard kind of rides working at a moderate intensity pace. In order to fuel that energy, we're going to need 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrates per hour to keep us feeling fresh, effective, not just for that ride, but also to recover effectively for the next ride as well. Now, when we're out on our club rides on a Saturday, they're typically about 2.5 to 3 hours. So within that, you're going to need a little bit of fuel to keep you going. You can't just rely on the cafe stop to provide you with the necessary energy to keep you going for that particular ride. So how are we going to do that? We can do that in a variety of ways. So number one, maybe is important, is about drinking. So some of us will use carb mix within our drinks bottles. Example behind me, typically a 500 milliliter carb drink will have around 30 to 40 grams of carbs in it as well. So if we were just relying on drinks, we would have to drink quite a lot to be able to maintain that. That obviously comes possibly with some gastric discomfort, and also if you get to my age, the need to stop frequently to go to the toilet as well. So perhaps not ideal to rely solely on drinks to be able to do that. Other options that we could have, so we could look to some of our regular snacks that we maybe have around the home, a piece of fruit, a banana for example, roughly around 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrates within a banana depending on size. Something like a saurine malt loaf, again around 20 grams of carbohydrates within that one. But we might also then look at some more energy dense foods which tend to be produced predominantly for endurance exercise. So we've got things like specific energy bars that you can pick up relatively cheaply these days if you shop around on the internet, and they will be slightly more energy dense. So that particular one has about 35 to 40 grams of carbohydrates in it as well. So you can see if you had that with a bit of drink each hour, that's probably going to get you round your ride feeling pretty comfortable. Alternatively is your energy gels. These tend to be even more dense in terms of the makeup, but also often include a little bit of sodium as well, which can help prevent cramping. That particular one has got 45 grams of carbohydrates within it. If you can get all of the energy gel out, which we know people don't always do, so you might need to do a little bit of maths on that to see whether you are getting the full amount of carbohydrates. But again, that with a little bit of drink as well. I guess it's all about experimentation and finding out what works for you. I quite like having a combination of different things rather than relying on just one thing as well, and also factoring in maybe what you're going to have at the cafe stop as well. So if you're going to have a big piece of cake, then obviously that will factor in as well. However, very importantly, you cannot ride for a long time and expect not to get a drop off in performance. So if that cafe stop is 2 hours in, you don't want to save all of your carbohydrate intake for the cafe. What we actually need to be doing is start taking in carbohydrates within the first 20 to 30 minutes of exercise, because we don't want to get to that depletion level where our performance starts to drop. We're starting to feel a little bit laggy as well. So the advice is to eat often and start eating early to be able to fuel those rides effectively. Now, if we're on longer rides, 100 Ks plus, up to 100 miles and even further, this becomes even more important, because what we don't want is our body to be breaking down muscle to use as fuel. That's going to feel quite damaging, and I'm sure you've all been there sometimes when you've had the dreaded bonk and you cannot turn the pedals at all. So do think about your fueling before you go out on your ride. Hopefully makes it a little bit more enjoyable for you as well, and maybe even a little bit faster. We'll tune in next month for the next tip. Thanks very much for now.